The Irrational Confidence Podcast. LSU and Ole Miss are facing off down at LSU. Right, again, another road favorite here. Ole Miss is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 63.5. There may not be a whole lot of defense played in this football game. That over still might come in there. Fresh, Ole Miss rebounds off that loss to Kentucky. They beat up a lesser South Carolina team. You know, you take a look at what LSU is doing right now. Last game was against Southern Alabama. I don't know, Fresh. Where do you see this one going here? Because LSU feels like that they're in no man's land in the SEC.
Well, last year's game was almost 100 points, over 100 points, like over 1,000 yards total offense, something like that. It was just insane.
Right.
I don't think we'll get that much because we don't have Jay Daniels on the field with Brian Thomas Jr. or Malik Neighbors, running each other, parallel for each other on the field. But we will see a lot of points scored. This is going to be the biggest test for Les Miles. His first year, pulled off the upset at home versus Nick Saban, Alabama, because he had nothing to lose. Nobody expected the LSU team to beat Alabama. They went and they took
Brian Kelly?
Brian Kelly, yeah. And they were able to get to the SEC championship game. This year, we haven't seen anything up to this point of what Brian Kelly and that entire LSU football team is going to do consistently. We saw a lot of offense last year. We saw future defense. They were like, They went to the Outback Bowl or whatever the heck they call it now. When is this program truly going to become LSU? Be a dominant football team, consistently show growth on offense and show an aggressive attack on defense. We didn't see it in the opener versus USC. We saw them get lucky as heck at South Carolina. They played okay versus UCLA, but the defense still stunk. They had 2 90-yard drives, which was okay, whatever. And then South Alabama, they scored. But we haven't seen this team with the swagger, with the dominant aspect, winning games, feeding off that environment there in Death Valley. It's just something that, eventually we've got to see why Brian Kelly was brought down there. We have not seen an offensive line truly dominate an opponent. We've not seen a ground game. We've not seen a defense. We've just seen a fat guy in a polo with an LSU logo on it. I want to see from this team and from this program, have they actually grown to become a feared team that we know this program to be? Or are they just a logo, and for lack of a better term, a paper tiger? This is their chance. Ole Miss they look like trash versus Kentucky. They managed pretty well versus South Carolina. I haven't still anything that screams to me that this is an elite, college football playoff team. Their defense is okay, and their offense still against South Carolina put up 27 points, 24 points. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to see them in a true dogfight again on the road and see if they can win. I want to see if, this LSU defense without Harold Perkins, who's going to step up and try to shut down Jackson Dart and Harris and that group of running backs and that offensive line, that tight end, group. Where's Lane Kiffin's head at? Does he actually act more aggressive? Does he actually act tough? We mentioned earlier in the offseason, he went to the portal to get offensive defensive linemen because he saw when he played Alabama and Georgia last year, he got destroyed at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Has he toughened up? Because there are some decent offensive linemen for LSU and some defensive players on that front seven who are going to go to the NFL. And how does your squad stack up and get things done when the pressure's on? And can you show up week in and week out and show growth and show improvement? Yeah, you have the skill players, you have the flash, but where's that nitty gritty in the line of scrimmage, in the grit that's going to be lasting and more impressionable? I still have no faith in Jackson Dart. Garrett Nussmeier is a solid manager. Jackson Dart, I just don't. He looks like a pretty boy kid who just won't get it done in the grit situations. He won't make the big boy throw on third down late in the ball game. He won't go and dive for that ball. He just doesn't seem that kind of leader quarterback. He's a frat boy under center, and I just don't trust it. I think Ole Miss is still too flashy. as much as I can't stand Brian Kelly, I think that there's enough pride with the Tigers in being at night that LSU behind, I think Caleb Durham's a great running back. They will run the ball right down Ole Miss's throat all night long, left, right, and above, and they will win 34-27, and effectively end Ole Miss's playoff hopes, and keep LSU alive. Not for an SEC title, but definitely for a playoff spot.
Fresh, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you feel like Jackson Dart's stats have kind of been like, while they're
inflated.
They're inflated. Yeah. And you're just kind of like, okay, great. Do you put up stats against really bad teams? And then what are you going to do against LSU? Like, LSU's defense is average, mediocre at best. And again, I'd argue this with LSU. You're +1 in the turnover difference. When in our lifetime, only maybe in the last couple of years, has LSU ever been an even +1, +2 turnover team ever? It's a team that prides themselves on the defense, getting teams to turn the football over, getting pressure after the quarterback, and I'm not seeing that out of the LSU defense. Again, you're right. I don't have a whole lot of faith with Ole Miss. I think that they're a good team. They're a middle of the road team. I think that they might be regretting some of their decisions. Again, Judkins leaving, going to Ohio State. But, what do they do? Where are they going to get their marquee, hang their hat on this win when they play Alabama? Is that's going to be it? Ole Miss, like, all right, you lose to LSU, and you're right. Your playoff hunt is pretty much over. You'll wind up at probably one of the off playoff bowl games that are pretty nice, but yeah, your playoff time is pretty much over here. LSU, you picked yourself off the mat. You lost your opening weekend game to USC, which that loss is looking a lot worse now, but you're picking yourself up. Brian Kelly has got an opportunity to do something here. You're able to get a top win, improve the LSU defense. You're showing yourself. You're able to, we are a different team than we were last year. Here's the interesting thing, though, Fresh. You brought up Les Miles earlier in this, and since 2000, under Les Miles, and going all the way now, LSU is 65-6 at night in Death Valley. Let that sink in for a second. They have over a 90% winning percentage in Death Valley at night. I'm rolling with the Tigers in this one, man. 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna be right, apparently. So guess what? I like those odds. If the 10% or 8% hits on the different time, so be it. I'm going with the 90% odds here. I'm going LSU to win this football game. I actually think that it's going to be like a 34-20 game. I think that it's going to be a substantial win by LSU. And I think LSU is going to kind of see themselves vaunted back up. But the hard part that they're going to have for a committee member, a person like me, I'm going to sit there and say, that's a very nice win, LSU. Good job out of you. You did a great job. Yeah, but factor going, yeah, but you still have that USC loss, and you need USC to be better to make that look good, because you didn't have it. And that's hard to kind of sit there on your resume with USC struggling the way they are.
Yeah, they need this marquee win. Like, this has to be locked in the bag for the Tigers, because if you lose to Ole Miss, I think then Brian Kelly's supposed to come get some heat. Like, the fan base is going to erupt, because, your team early on didn't look – UCLA is a terrible football team. You looked average early on in that ballgame. You got lucky. Let's call a spade a spade. You got lucky for South Carolina, and you lost to an average USC team at best. There are problems right there at Baton Rouge. Everything that your pedigree from Notre Dame is not carried down to the bayou, and you've got to find a way to get yourself a stellar big win now, to carry this forward and keep the momentum going for the Tigers.
Yeah, though I will give the Tigers credit. Swinson and Jones for them. That pass rush is starting to look a little bit better there as well. And then if we didn't have Brian Williams, who, if you didn't know, is 17, I'm getting tired of people just reminding me constantly of that, and Jeremiah Smith, we would really be talking about Trey Harris and what he's doing down there at Ole Miss. 52 catches already on the year, almost 900 yards. Kid's impressive. Kid's impressive.
They know how to put stats up there in Oxford.